clean, reliable energy for all Australians.
Coal-fired power stations will be closing.
Only the LNP at their worst suggested a new coal-fired power station.
Labor is addicted to more coal and gas.
We want Australians to have more choice.
A lot of people are thinking about buying an EV.
I can't think of a worse fit for Australia than nuclear energy.
Chris Bowen, thank you so much for joining the Daily Aus.
Great pleasure, Billy.
Can we start the conversation by you explaining what exactly do you do?
So I'm the Cabinet Minister responsible for climate change and energy. So I've got my hands on the energy levers and the climate change levers. So I think the most important job I've ever done, most important job I'll ever do. It's the biggest crisis facing the planet, the biggest economic change our country's ever undertaken. And it's my job to help the government through that and help the country through it.
2023 was the hottest year on record in the world. January was also the world's hottest January on record. Is the Australian government doing enough to address this right now?
And what we're on is a race. This is a race, and we're starting very late. We're starting really in 2022 to get
But I just want to focus, since you've been in power,
yes,
are
that's
we
right.
doing
Since
it?
we've been in power, we've increased our target to 43%, our emissions reduction target, introduced an 82% renewable energy target, up from around 30% when we came to office. So think about that, 30% when we came to office in 2022 to 82% by 2030. That's a huge lift, a huge jump. We'll do it, but it's a massive task, a massive job. You know, it's March now, 2024. That means we've got 69 months to January 2030. And there's some people who say we're doing too much. The coalition says we're doing too much. That's all nonsense. We don't have time. We've got a huge task ahead of us. We'll do it, but 69 months is not long to get the job done.
So Australia has a goal of cutting emissions by 43% by 2030, which we are slightly behind on. But even if we do meet that, that won't be enough to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Why not do more?
Well, we are pretty much on track for 43. The forecast I released last year showed us getting 42, so a bit more to do. But, you know, compared to where we were when we came in, massive lift in activity. So people say we should have higher targets. I respect that, I understand that. But show me what you would do differently. Show me how you'd get to higher than 82% renewable. Show me how you'd reduce emissions from industry by more than 4.9%, 5% a year. You could say do more. What would you do more than what we are doing in terms of reducing our emissions? Because we are going really fast.
But we won't meet the 1.5 degree limit on global warming.
I'm not giving up on that, by the way. That's a global target.
But even if we meet the current target, we won't meet that.
Well, I'm not giving up on 1.5.
But since you've been Climate Change Minister, the Labor government has approved 4 new coal mines or expansions. Why?
Well, most of those are metallurgical, which is needed for steel. And we need a lot more steel for this transition. We need to build the transmission towers and everything that goes into the renewable energy supply chain. And so the world's going to need that metallurgical coal to build the steel we need. And again, we're getting to 82% renewable, and we're helping other countries get to renewable targets, a lot of them very similar to ours, but we're not there yet.
When the government is approving a new coal mine, is it considering the impact it will have on future generations?
Well, of course, in everything we do, we consider the impact on future generations, but we also consider the needs of today. If you've got steel that's needed, whether it's for buildings or for renewable energy or for whatever purpose, and it needs metallurgical coal, it's needed. Whether that steel is made in Australia or offshore, at the moment, it's needed.
There are examples of young people around the world suing governments for approving coal mines because they believe it neglects their right to a healthy environment. Do you believe that government should have a legal obligation to protect young people from the effects of climate change?
I think whether we have a legal obligation or not, we have a moral obligation to do everything we can, and we are.
But laws are important, obviously, and it would make it a legal obligation.
Yeah, but I mean, we see our obligations to future generations, to the rest of the world, as our core responsibility. It's not just a moral obligation in relation to climate change, it's an obligation to create the jobs of the future for young people as well, which will be very much focused on green energy.
If you do see it as so important, Independent Senator David Pocock has a duty of care bill that would require governments to consider the impact of climate harm on young people. Why do you not support making it a legal obligation?
As I said, we have our approach, which is different. We have a different approach, which is to get on with the job.
Let's talk about electric vehicles.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of young people listening to this would love to buy an electric vehicle, but it is simply too expensive. What are you doing to address the affordability?
And you're 100% right. The big thing we're doing at the moment is the new vehicle efficiency standards, which would require car companies to send us better and more efficient cars, and that will include electric vehicles, as well as more efficient versions of the petrol and diesel vehicles that are currently made. And when it comes to electric vehicles, a lot of people say they are expensive, and of course there's truth in that, but that is partly a result of policy because we don't require companies to send us the affordable models. Now, there are affordable EVs that are available in the United Kingdom, in Europe, that aren't available here. The car companies don't send them here. By putting vehicle efficiency standards on, we'll force them to send us a more efficient fleet, and that will inevitably include more affordable models as well. The second thing is, just by increasing the number of EVs generally, like we're converting the Commonwealth car fleet to electric, we've got an electric vehicle discount, which is driving up electric vehicle sales. But the thing is about fleets is they turn over after 2 or 3 years, they sell the cars. And I think most young people are going to be looking at second-hand cars.
When do you think the average young person in Australia will be able to consider buying an electric vehicle?
Well, our standards will come into force on 1 January next year, 2025. But we've been converting the Commonwealth fleet to electric since we came to office. And I reckon that means in about 2 years' time from now, you're really going to start to see the second-hand market really have more electric vehicles available.
So in 2 years' time, how much do you think it would be?
Well, it depends on what sort of car you're after.
I want a figure. Like in 2 years, how much will it be?
I'm not going to make a promise. I'm not going to keep, because the cars are so different, right? But there'll be more models available.
Let's move to nuclear energy. Can we start the conversation by you explaining to the audience, as simply as possible, what is nuclear energy?
It's been around since just after World War II, but then through the 50s and 60s, they took that and turned it into nuclear power plants. So it's the same principle that goes in the atomic bomb, goes into making power. Say a government decided, yep, we're going to go nuclear, we're talking 2040s, realistically, before anything was supplying energy in Australia. Then you're basically almost at 2050, which is when we're meant to be net zero by. So
But the coalition says that nuclear energy could be used to achieve net zero.
They're wrong. They're wrong, because you're not going to get it up and running until the 2040s. It's not going to support renewables. It is a terrible policy for Australia. That's before we've even got to, safety, waste, the morality of it.
So you've been the climate change minister for nearly 2 years now. Do you ever suffer from climate anxiety?
The honest answer, Billi, is I am much more optimistic than that, because I know the ramifications of us not getting it right. Therefore, I know we will, because the ramifications are too big. And I see a lot of people, a lot of smart scientists working on really important projects to generate...
But scientists aren't in government. Like, scientists are saying that we do need a lot of action, but they're not the ones making the policies.
But we're harnessing that innovation.
So what would you say to the young people in particular who have a lot of climate anxiety?
I understand it, and I understand why people are maybe concerned about the future. I completely get it. What I'm saying is I tend to take a more optimistic view.
It's optimistic, but is it realistic?
I think so, because it has to be. Otherwise, what are we going to do?
Chris Bowen, thank you so much for joining the Daily Aus.
It's been my pleasure.